Okay, hello everybody. This is Steve and Lyle. We are going to be talking about general navigation within Nav, the new software for Campbell Supply. There's different ways that you can access Nav. Obviously, if you have a shortcut on your desktop, you can double click that and it will open Nav for you. Sometimes it'll be pinned to your taskbar at the bottom. Then you just have to click it once. And also, if you do not see it on your desktop or your taskbar, you can also click on the Start menu, and it should be in your Start menu here on the left-hand side. So we're going to go ahead and open our Microsoft Dynamics. When you open Microsoft Dynamics, depending on what they call your role, you will be assigned a role center. And for demonstration purposes, we've assigned this computer or user to sales order processor, and that's listed here. And you can see that it also highlights on the left-hand side that I am in my role center here, which is I'm assigned as a sales order processor. Don't be concerned for this demonstration that you're not a sales order processor. We're going to go over just the highlights of how Nav works, how you can get around in Nav and navigate from one screen to another and show different information on your screen and how you can look at things differently. The first thing I wanted to go over in the role center is your activities tiles. These tiles are assigned to a role. So if you're a sales order processor, obviously you're going to see quotes, sales orders, your sales orders that are ready to ship. If they're not ready to ship, what's the delay? Also, if you have any returns, you'll have tiles there that will show that you have open return orders or credit memos. If you were to click on these tiles, it'll go into each section and show you the 24 sales quotes that you have open here. It would also, if you clicked on this one, show you the 69 sales orders that you have open. We're not going to click on them right now. We'll go back to that and show you how you can look at that list and find the information that you need. But one of the other things that we wanted to cover is when you first sign on and you get to your Role Center page, or also considered your home page down here, is the ribbon at the top. This is called the ribbon. It has different groups of functions within the ribbon. You have, in this one, you have a new document section, a price section, a history, page, tasks, sales, and reports. When you go to different pages in the system, and you'll see this as we move forward, this ribbon will change dependent on what screen or what activity you're doing. But they function the same. If you were to click on one of these buttons, it would take you to a new page and show you the information that is highlighted there. Also on the ribbon, you would have a tab. And on your home Role Center screen right now, there's just this action tab. And these are action functions that you can do throughout the system based on your role. As you go forward and look at different pages, you might get more than one tab at the top that you'll have to switch between depending on different things you want to look at, and we'll demonstrate that later. The other thing that you'll see at the top is the company name. So right now on this demonstration, we have CRP Campbell Supply. In the live system, as we go forward, it should just say Campbell Supply at the top. But we are looking at a demo system here, so we have a prefix in front of that to make sure we know which one we're on. And also it does show it in the bottom left-hand corner, along with the date and, that it is today, and also the login that we're signed on under. So this would have the date that you are on and then your login information down here. If you were to move forward off of this page, so let's say we want to go to our sales orders, there's different ways to get to those sales orders. Of course, you can look at your open sales orders, or if you look at the drop-down arrow here by clicking on the arrow, it will open up a sub-menu for your sales orders. And you can see that there are different types of sales order statuses that you could look at. Here is the open sales order, which would be the same as clicking this tile. But there's also sales orders that have been shipped but not invoiced. There's also ones that have been partially shipped or ready to ship that you can take a look at differently. We're going to go ahead and click on our open sales order tile here. And you'll see our screen has changed. And the reason I wanted to get to a different screen is to show you the function at the top that is your back button and your forward button, just like if you were doing a web browser. So here you can see that we've gone from the company to our home page to our sales orders, and then our sales orders open. So if I click back one, it now just goes straight back to our home page because we went straight to sales orders open. If we clicked on our sales orders at the top here, you'll see now that it's showing us all sales orders, not dependent on any of the sub-menu here. It's all sales orders, and that's what this is showing you. And then if we click on the sales order open, now you can see that it's just the open sales orders. And then we can again go back one step at a time back to our home page. Okay, now what I would like you to do is to go ahead and pause the video and then open up Nav on your screen and go into your home Role Center page here like we have here, and then go ahead and click on a menu item on the left-hand side. So depending on your role, you may not have sales orders right here, but you may have something else listed like items or customers or vendors. And click on one of those and it'll take you to another page. Like if I click on items, it's going to go ahead and take me to another page. And then practice, go ahead and hit the back button, or you can also go ahead and click just within the breadcrumb at the top here, that as it extends the items out as many pages as you go, you can skip back to just the home page and it would take you back straight to your home page area. So you can go ahead and pause the video and practice that, clicking on a couple different sections. Again, as we bring in another screen here, you can see that there's different tabs. You can click on those tabs. Don't go ahead and click anything in the tab, but you can just click on the tab function and then hit the back button and then come back and start the video again. Okay, now that you're back from practicing that, hopefully that went well. We're going to try something different here. So in Nav, there's several different ways to get to where you want to go. Obviously, from a sales order processor, customers are important to a salesperson. So there's multiple ways to get to a customer's record or customer's information. Again, here, you can see that customer is listed on the left-hand side in the menu. But if it wasn't, you could search for that in this search bar at the top right-hand corner. And you can search for most anything that you need to get to through this search bar. So if I typed in customer here, you'll want to click on customer on the left-hand side. There's things over here that you could click on, but most of the time you're going to want to click on the left-hand side to go directly to customers. There will be a list of other areas you can go. Some of those are reports, if they have a graph on them to the left-hand side, and some of them are lists or grids, depending on your terminology. for different customer activities. Customers is listed twice here. This will take you both to the same spot, so click on either one. So when you do that, it takes you to the customer's listing. And this is where you can start to look for customer information from. So if I was in customer and I said, well, I want to go straight to items. Again, I could look on the left-hand side and I see that I have items here, but I also could search for just item in my search bar, and it'll take me directly to items. And now when I click on that, it gives me a list of all of our items that we have in inventory or available to sell. So there's different ways to get to different areas of the system. One of the ways that you'll find that's pretty easy from anywhere that you are, if I go to sales orders, or these are sales return orders, and now I click here and I go to vendor, which isn't on my left-hand side list, I could go right to vendors and look at a vendor list and see all the vendors. So it's just a quick way to get from one screen to another to go back and forth in the system. So now you can see in my breadcrumb up here, I have quite a few screens that I've gone through. And if I want to go back to the previous one, I can just hit the back button. Now it takes me back to the sales order returns where I started, and then back to home. It's all right. Now we'd like to talk about the left-hand side of the screen, and then we're going to go over and talk about the right-hand side of the screen. On the left-hand side of the screen, again, we've talked about this is a menu of items that you can get to based on your role. They'll be different. So if you're in accounts receivable, you'll have some accounting functions over here. Accounts payable will have accounts payable functions. Purchasing will have vendor-related information or purchase-related information on the left-hand side. And then again, we've demonstrated that you can click on these down arrows, pointing arrows that will have a submenu underneath if you want to go directly to a specific area within the sales credit memos. Also then at the bottom, there are different areas that you can go to based on your role again. So if you have a different role, you may have more items down here than just these two. But if you're in a lot of different roles, you'll want to go to posted documents at some point if you're looking up some history to see what has posted for a particular sale or customer or purchase or transfers, and those kind of things will all be under this posted documents section. We're not going to go into detail on that. We're just going to show you that that's where it's at and how to get to it. Again, also you could search in this top right-hand corner for any of these items here, and it would pull up on the link here, and you could click on that link and take you there. The other thing that we can show you on this is that, again, you have a scroll bar here that you can go up and down if it becomes where you have to go more items than listed. But you can also adjust the size. If you see, as I click down, I get a up and down arrow. I can click on this and bring up. Oh, okay. Go down. I can make it bigger, I guess, because it was as small as it could get. Now I can bring it back up. On the right-hand side, there's, again, depending on your role, there'll be different headings over here that you could look at. And these are somewhat customizable to you. So as we go through the system and find things that may be important to you, we can list them on the left-hand side here. So as a sales order processor or a salesperson, my customers are important to me, and my items that I might want to follow are also important to me. So what we have here are some tabs that have these down arrows. And if you click on the down arrow, it will expand this tab and move the other tabs down the screen. So what I've done here is I've selected a few customers that I want to follow and see quick access to their information from my home screen. So if I wanted to look at CF Industries here, I can see that I can open them and look at their card and get any information or any sales history information that I need to see from them just by clicking on that open button or double clicking on the name or code here. So you can have as many customers in your list that are particular to you. It shows their name and their phone number and their balance that they currently have open. Again, we're looking at demo data here, so don't rely on any of that balance information. If I wanted to add somebody to the list, I could just go to the Manage List, and then it'll bring up a list of the current ones that I have. I can increase the screen size anytime I want on any of the screens that come up. And then if I click in the next line that I want to add somebody to, and I click in the code function, it will bring up the list of customers in a separate screen. And if I had start typing in this screen another name, let's just do MUR, and we'll see that we have Murphy Tower Service, Murphy's Heating and Plumbing, Murphy's Insulation Inc., and Lyle Murray. And I could, just at this point, I could pick any of these. If I clicked on Lyle's name and then hit enter, it would put him in my list of customers to watch. And I see he owes us $3.79. So, and you can do that as many times as you want. And you can also go in and take customers out that you no longer want to follow. So if I were to click on MJ Electric and decide I don't want to follow them anymore, if I put my arrow on the left-hand side here and right-click, you can see I can delete this line. If I did go ahead and delete this line, it takes them out of my list. And then again, if I wanted them back, I could just type in MJ, and it would bring up MJ Electric and hit enter, and it adds them back to the list. So very flexible ways of doing things. When you're in this list, you can certainly sort the list either by customer code, or you can sort it by name, you can sort it by phone number, you can sort it by the balance, just by clicking on the header of each of those columns. If I hit the balance again, it sorts it in descending order. And that was just on that screen. If I wanted to do the same thing here on my home page, I would have to click it here in the home page section. So now I could close this tab and open the next tab. You'll see here now I have items that I want to follow, and these are items that I want to track and just make sure I know what the price is or what the inventory level is of an item that I might sell frequently, and it's a quick way to see if you have inventory. Right now this is company-wide inventory for this DeWalt chuck that we have here showing on the screen. Again, if I wanted to open up that item, I could just double click it. And it opens up the item card. And again, I could see different information about the item. If I want to look at sales history or the item's ledger entry history, I could do it from this card. Again, if I want to add something to this list, I would just click on Manage List. and then click on the next line, start typing the item that I want to put in. If I didn't know the code exactly, you'll see that it has a filter here that it's looking in the item code field for whatever I type in here. I can change that and put it in the description field. And now if I start typing in here something in the description, let's say hammer, it will find in the description anything that has hammer in it. It's not necessarily just at the beginning of it. I don't believe. Maybe it is on this one. Yep, maybe it is on this one. It just shows everything that starts with hammer. Yep. We can try putting a asterisk in front of it and see if it, nope, doesn't find it that way. So, but it will find things that start with hammer in that information. You can also put it in the short code. If you know a short code for a number that you want to follow, you could type in the short code and it would find the short code and show you the item that short code relates to. So we can just pick another item here that we want to add and hit enter, and it'll add that item to our list that we want to follow. And again, then we could sort this list by the item code or by the price or the quantity on hand, and just be able to look at those. Now you can see that this box that the items are in, if I only had 3 of them in this list, it takes up a lot of space on my page. Again, I can go down to the bottom of that box, and when I get the crosshairs here, if I hold my left button, I can drag that up and make that box smaller so that I can see both my customers, if I have this open, and my items on the same screen at the same time. So you can play around with that. Again, you can pause the video and play around with these 2 boxes here. If you have those on your screen, you can add the information to the. Now we're going to take a look at a different area. I'll just minimize these for my screen. What we're going to do now is go look at an actual list. And again, we can go to either item or customer or vendor if you have vendor access. We're going to go to items. And when we click on items, it's going to bring up a list or a grid, however you want to call it, of all the items. And that obviously can be a little overwhelming of all the items that you have here. But we're going to show you how you can find items, how you can search for specific items or a group of items, and different ways to work with lists as they come up on your screen. The first thing that we're going to look at is sorting. Again, as we showed in some of the other screens, in any of the column headings that you have on your list, and again, the list is bigger than my page, so I could scroll to the right or scroll back to the left so that I can see more columns. You can sort on any of those, and right now you can see that it's sorting ascending on the number here because the arrow is pointing up and it's on the item number. If I wanted to do it on the short code, again, I just click on the short code and it's showing any short codes. If I hit it again, it's going to show the short code in descending order, so it's going to start with the end of the alphabet and go back to the beginning. And again, if I do it ascending, then it's starting with blank. If there is no short code, then the blank is going to be the lowest. I can do it on quantity on hand. It's going to show me all the zeros, and then it's going to show me the ones with the highest amount of quantity on hand. So you can do that across the board with any different areas that you have. Again, we'll just go back to sorting it by the item number. The next thing you can do is, again, there are a lot of columns on the screen here that some I may want to see and some I may not. And this that we're doing to these screens are specific to you. So if you make a change to the item list screen here, then you're only making the change for yourself. So if you want to sort it by short code, descending order, if Lyle were to sign on at another computer under his name, he will not see that it's sorted by short code. It'll still be sorted by the item number in ascending order. So don't worry about making any changes here that are going to affect others. It's just going to affect yourself. So one of the options you have within the item section is you can right-click anywhere in this section here that has the lines in it. You can right-click, and it's going to bring up another menu where you can go down to this Choose Columns item, and you can click your left button on that item, and it's going to bring you up to a section where you can pick what columns you want to see on your screen only. And right now you can see that these are all the columns that we are currently seeing. So it shows column in this order. And we had the number first, then we had the short code, and then we had the description, and so on. And if we want to change the order that these are in, we can do so. So let's say we want to take the vendor number and we want to put it right underneath or next to the description. If we highlight the vendor number and click the Move Up button, you'll see that it moves up every time I click it until I get it to where I want to see it. So now if we click OK, you will see now that the vendor number column is right after the description, right where we put it in the list, and everything else just moves over to the right. We'll right click again and go back to Choose Columns. And let's say there's an item on here that we do not want to see in our list. So if we don't care what the purchaser code is, we can take this and highlight this again and remove it. And what that's going to do is it's going to take the purchaser code and move it to the left-hand side here of columns that are available to view. So we'll just hit remove, and you'll see it put it right back here in alphabetical order on the left-hand side. So again, if we hit OK, you'll see that where the purchaser code was, which was between item status and non-stock item checkbox, it's no longer there. It's gone. So it's not going to fill up our screen, and we don't see it at all. So we're going to go back to Column Chooser again, or Choose Columns, and you can again sort these items any way you want. So now let's say we want the vendor number to go back to where it was after item status, and so we can just take and move that down. And so now the vendor number will be after item status in our list view here at the bottom, or in the list view at the top there. Now, another thing that we can do is, let's say as I click OK here, as I scroll across the bottom here, you'll see on the left-hand side, my number and my short code start to go off the screen, and I can't see what my item number is anymore. Now that I see what the price is, I don't remember what the item was. So what you can do is, if you go back to Choose Columns again by right-clicking and hit Choose Columns, you can put in what they call this freeze pane. So if I go and highlight description and hit freeze pane, I think it's going to put it above, nope, it puts it right below the item that you have highlighted. So that's where we want it. And then again, if you highlight the freeze pane itself, you can also move that up and down. Anything in this list that you highlight, you can move up and down. So let's move it right under the short code there. The description we can let slide off the side. So let's hit OK again. Now you can see that right after the short code, I have this line that goes all the way down my list. and you'll see the other columns don't have that line, and that's the freeze pane line. So now as I scroll to the right, just my description is going to disappear, and my item and my short code stay fixed. And now I can see that this price relates to this item, and this price relates to this item, and so on. So that's a nice way that you can have your important fields that you want to see stay fixed as you scroll across different areas of the system in your list here. If we go back to choose columns, then again, there's this list on the left-hand side that have a lot of columns that are not being shown currently. And let's say we want to take one of those and show it. Let's take the item category code, and let's add that to the right-hand side by clicking the Add button here at the top. So now that's automatically going to put it at the end of my list because it doesn't know where I want it other than the end. But I want to move it up to right after description. So I'm just clicking on the up button until I get it right after the description. And then I can hit OK. And now you see my item category is right after my description. Another thing you'll notice when I added this column, if I go down and look at the column, I can't read all of the information in that column because it's not wide enough. If you go to the top of the column, and you'll see that you have the separators between the columns. When it goes to the double arrows, if I hold my left button down and move to the right, it will widen that column as much as I move it across. And if I move it back, it'll shorten it. If I have it there and I double click my left button, it'll automatically make it as wide as the widest item in that column. That's just how you can make sure that you see all the information in the column. So if I double click on the description, you'll see it automatically widens it to the widest item that we have on the screen there. I then can say, well, that makes it so I can't see all my other columns here, and I really don't care about the description that much. I can just move that back and shorten the description as much as I want and see more columns here on the right-hand side. So it's very flexible on showing what you want to see, what order you want to see it in, what information you want to see on the screen, and be able to get that list the way you want it. So once you have the list the way you want it, you may say, well, it's a long list. If I were to scroll down, it just goes on forever and ever and ever. But I want to search for something that's in this list. You can go up to this search field here, which is just for this list. Again, this search field here is for different functions, but this list here is just for this item list. And right now, the search is defining that it's going to choose the number column. As you can see, the heading is the same. And if I were to put a field in here, it would search in this column for what I want to look for. So let's say I want to look for a DW 521, and I put in 521. It's going to find everything that has 521 in the item code somewhere. So here you see 521, there's 521 at the end here, 521 here. Then also at the bottom here, you see I have a DW0521. So again, if I wanted to be more specific, I could have done DW0521, and it would have brought me just to that item. Now, I might not know that that's what the item number was. You can put in, again, as much as you know. If I know it starts with a DW, I could do a DW, and it would find everything that has DW in the list. Now, if I didn't know what the item number was, but I wanted to search the description, I could click on the down arrow next to the search field, and here are all the columns I have in my list. And if I can search on any of those columns, So if I wanted to search on the description, I would just click description, and now I can go in here and put Chuck. And now it will find in the description column anything that has Chuck in the description. And again, here's my DW521, that is a Chuck 3/8 inch for impact driver. If I wanted to search by the short code, the DW521, you can see, doesn't have one, but let's say we wanted to search for this short code here. I could click on short code and go in and put in COI. I could do a space CH and hit enter, and it's going to find that short code and give me the item information. And again, you can do that on any of the columns that are listed here. You can search for a specific item or a group of items. If you clear out the search field and just hit enter, it'll bring all of the items back in the list again. Another function that you can do to help you find what you're looking for is you can filter on this list. And to do a filter, you can click this down arrow here, and it will expand the filter section that's above your list. And right now, we have where the number is equal to any value because it just says enter a value, so it's blank. If we wanted to filter that on, again, DWs, we could do DW. Sorry. Equal DW. Is, okay. So now we're going to show you that if you want to filter an item or filter the list down even further so you can get more detailed information, you can click this down arrow here on the right-hand side of the search, and it'll bring up a filter screen that's above your column heading here. And this is where we can search for anything, again, that's in our list that we want to search or filter on. So let's we want to filter on vendor number, and we want to say vendor that is 3M. When I type in 3M, it's looking at the vendor code, and it's searching on the filter of the vendor code. If I had clicked on the name here, then it will start searching on the vendor name. But we're going to pick 3M, and within 3M, if I hit enter here, now it's going to show me all 3M items. I've got 3M starting at the lowest number and moving on, and then you can see category-wise I have tape, and I have VHP tape, and safety, and chemical, and non-stock item. And if I wanted to narrow this down even further, I can add another filter. If I click the green plus sign, it brings up an and. So where vendor number is equal to 3M and my item category code is equal to, and let's just pick one, let's say safety, and hit enter. Now you can see my list change to 3M items that are in the safety category code. So now this is all that I have in my list. If I want to add another filter, I just keep adding the plus sign, and now I say and where my quantity on hand is greater than, if I use the greater than sign, 100. And now I hit enter, and now you can see it changed again, that now it's only showing me 3M items that are safety that are greater than 100 on hand. Now, even though I have this filter, I can sort this and say I want to see the lowest quantity on hand first, and then I want to see the highest quantity on hand. So if I click it again, now it's descending. Now I see that this dust mask is a 3M safety item, and I have 10,200 on hand company-wide. So it's just different ways that you can filter this down on different column headings that you have and get your list down narrowed. One of the other features that you can do is, let's say I want to go backwards and I want to get rid of one of the filters. If I want to get rid of the quantity on greater than 100, all I have to do is hit the red X, and it will take that filter off. And now if I do my quantity on hand sort, you'll see I have zeros again. So now I'm back to 3M items that are safety, any quantity. So what if I wanted to save this view as it is? I want to make sure that if I wanted to see this view as it is filtered right now, can I save it? And yes, you can. If you go up to items, you can see right here that there's a save view as. So if I click on that, I can save this view as it is filtered, and I can rename it to whatever I want. So I'm going to call it items 3M safety. And I'm going to save it to my home screen. So if I hit OK, you can watch over here. It says you're changing the save will take effect after your application has restarted. Do you want to restart now? And I'm going to say yes. Okay, so it opened up my home screen again. And you'll see now that the item here has a drop-down arrow next to it. If I click that drop-down arrow, you'll see I have an items 3M safety on the left-hand side. If I click that, it's going to go directly to my item list, but only item 3M safety, and it brings me right back to my list that I saved. And it saved it in the last sorted order that I had, which was by quantity on hand. Again, once I'm in here, I can change the sort back to whatever column I want. And then you can resave it if you wanted to resave it as the item and just say save view. And you want to save this view, yes. And now it'll be saved in item sequence ascending. Okay. Another thing that we wanted to show you, we can go ahead and go back to just regular items. So I have my safety view here, but I want to go back to the regular items, and I can just click on items on the left-hand side, and it's going to give me all items again. If I wanted to hide the filter, I could just click on this up arrow, and it'll hide the filter for me. So another thing that we wanted to show you was on the right-hand side. You'll see there's a bunch of boxes over here, and those are called fact boxes. And they have pertinent information to whatever item you have highlighted in your list. So let's go back to the DW 0521. I'm going to search for that item, and I searched it by the short code, which is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to search it by the number. So I just changed that, hit enter again, and now it brings that item up. So now if you look at the fact boxes on the right-hand side, you'll see that it shows you that you have 246 on hand. And that currently is showing you company-wide how many you have on hand. Then it will also show you other places that you have inventory coming in for this item. So if there's any quantity on a purchase order, there would be a number here. If there's anything that's on a transfer order, it'll be a number here. Or if we're assembling an item, it'll show you that here. Again, I can't see all of the words that are on my titles here, but I can change that by going to the left here. And when it changes to my crosshairs again, I can hold my left button and drag to the left, and my fact boxes get wider. So this is just a personal preference to you on how wide you want your fact boxes to be compared to your list screen. And you can change that as often as you want. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, just so I see most of all my information here. And then below this supply fact box, you'll see a demand fact box. So this is all inventory that you have or coming in, and this is all inventory that you have going out. So if inventory item is on a assembly bill of material, and that bill of material is being sold, you might have that item on as a component of a sales order or an assembly. But most of the time, like this 521, it's a regular item. And it'll show you how many of these are on sales orders. So right now we have 500 or 29 of the 521s on sales orders. And a nice feature about the software as well is that if I wanted to see what sales orders those are, I can just click on the 29 because it's blue and it has an underline, means it's a link. If I click that 29 with my left button, it brings up a new window, and that new window shows you all of the sales orders that this 521 is on. Now, I can't, again, see my sales order numbers in whole. All I need to do is double click the document number column, and it'll now show me that these are all the different sales order numbers that this item is on. And the customer we're selling it to, and the description, and the quantity that they are ordering. And again, there's a lot more columns here that you can look at as well. We won't get into that at this time. We'll do that later. So that was the sales order side of it. So we see that where those are going. If we wanted to look at the quantity on hand, we could click on the quantity on hand. And now you can see what entries have been made for this item. There's been adjustments made to the item, either through a transfer or through a receipt, and it shows you what location the information is at and where the quantity is for those 246 inventory. And again, there's other information here that'll show you different information about the item. As you scroll down the list of your fact boxes, you'll see they'll have a usage fact box. This will show you what your current month usage is, what we had for usage last month, and then average monthly usage over the last 6 months and last year. If you scroll down again, you'll see that there's actual item information listed here, and it has the item number that is blue with a line on it. And that means you can click on that and it'll take you right to the item card for this item. So here is the physical item card for the DW 521 that shows you what the description is, when it was created, last modified, just other general information about the item. And the fact boxes for this item, again, are listed on the left-hand side. As we scroll down, you'll see that this item has a picture. As we go through the system in the future, which probably will be after go live, we will start adding pictures for items. So as you are either on an item list or even in a sales order, when you enter an item number in on a sales order line, one of the fact boxes you could have would be a picture of the item so that you could make sure that you verify that that's what you're wanting to sell. Another thing is we have links available for items. This is where you can link a document to a specific item. And this is where like an MSDS sheet would be for an item. And if you clicked on it, you would be able to open up that document and see the MSDS sheet for this particular item. So that is the fact boxes that will show up on the right-hand side. And these will change depending on what list you're in. If I'm in a customer list, it's obviously not going to show me any quantity on hand. It's going to show me customer information. And we'll get into that when we get into those specific trainings. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back to somewhere different. We're going to go to customers. Actually, we're going to go to our home page. And then we're going to go to my customers. And we're going to go to Lyle, since he's my favorite customer here, and we're going to open his card. And we're going to edit his card. If I make my screen bigger here and widen, click on the edit pencil here. What we want to show you within a card is something that's specific to this system or different than our system that we currently have, is that every time you change a field in a card, it saves it. So there is no F2 to save a card or a customer record once you made all the field changes. Every time you change a field, it saves that field and records it. There's good and bad with that. Of course, good is you don't have to worry about saving what you're doing. Once you make the change, it's live and it goes. The bad thing is if I change something and I forgot what I changed and I need to change it back, you really don't have any history to go back and fix that. So here's an example of that. We'll show that I want to change Lyle's address, and I'm going to change it to just test address. Let's see if I can spell. Okay, and as soon as I hit enter or tab, either one is going to take me to the next field. That has changed. So his address was 453 Lincoln Avenue. Now it's Test Avenue. And I say, oh, I forgot. I don't want to change it to Test Avenue. But if I hit X, thinking that it's not going to save it, it has already saved it because I tabbed off of that field. So if I go back and open his card again, you'll see his address is Test Address. And there's no way to undo that or make it back to what it was without retyping it again. So I'm going to go back in and put 550 or 453 Lincoln there. Lincoln Avenue. Now, since I haven't tabbed off the field, if I backspace and say, oh, it's Lincoln Street, that's not a problem. I can change that to Lincoln Street. But as soon as I tab or hit enter off of that field, now that's saved. And that's anywhere in the system that you are on a field. If you're in a sales order field, if you're in a purchase order field, if you're on a purchase invoice field, as soon as you tab off of that field or go to the next field, that field is saved. So now I can either hit the red X or the OK at the bottom. It doesn't matter. I can hit OK. I'm going to go back and change it to the correct. So it's Avenue, tab. Now it's saved. I'll hit OK. And that has been changed. One of the things that also to keep in mind when you're doing that, if I go to customers, and this pertains to items, sales orders, or anything that you're doing new. If I create new and I go to the card, oh, okay. If I go to the card, I can create a new number. Let's say I hit new cust, and I hit tab, and I say, oh no, don't worry about that. That's not what I wanted. I'm just going to X out. That customer has been created. So if I go and I search for new, here's my new customer, and you can see that everything is blank. Only once I typed in that customer number, it saved that customer card, no matter, even though I didn't have anything in there. So the only way to get rid of that is to go ahead and delete it. So if I highlight that customer and right click and delete, then it will get rid of that customer. As long as there's no transactions against that customer card, it'll delete it for you. But that's something you have to be careful about, that if you start something and you just X out thinking that I don't want to save it, it is saved, and it's going to clog up the system if you don't go back and delete it. So that's just an example of how the system saves items within the field. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to our home page, to the Roll Center. And that pretty much concludes the demonstration training video for general navigation. There'll be some accompanying exercises that you can use to practice what was taught in this video. We'll send those as separate attachment, and then you can review those and do those exercises to do practice.